Is it a thriller? Is it a drama? Or is it a twisted plot? Well, we'll find out in just a moment as we talk with NSU's very own and Hampton Roads native Booker T. Mattison on his latest film, A Twisted Marriage Therapist. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille. Stay tuned as we discover the new film on Tubi. Welcome back. It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille. We want to thank you all for joining us on this Labor Day holiday. Congratulations. You made it. It is, for those of you that made it to September, you made it to this well-deserved 3-day holiday that we have here as Labor Day for all of our hard workers. If you're working 40 plus hours a week, if you're doing everything that you can to make sure that you can provide for your family, if you're in school being educated so you can improve yourself, we salute you on this Labor Day holiday. So whatever you do, make sure that you're being safe and make sure you're getting some rest and make sure you are enjoying yourself. Also, we like to welcome back to school all students, K through 12, college, welcome back once again for a new academic year. Every academic year and being able to work on a university campus is so rewarding because we get to see new minds and fertile minds come to our campuses and come through our school doors. If you work at an elementary, middle, and high school, where they get an opportunity to realize their dreams and to be molded and shaped into the global citizens that they are to make an impact in this world. So welcome back, students. And also, we can't do it without our teachers and administrators and staff. Welcome back to you as well. Listen, if you're a teacher, if you're a professor, if you're an administrator, staff member in any university or any school, listen, we salute you because without you, we couldn't educate our children and they couldn't be the people that they are today and make the impact that they're making in our world. So highly underpaid, but well respected. We thank you and I salute you here on Stay the Water. As always, we'd like to thank you, the listeners, for your support because you are the reason why we do this show, where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to discuss issues important to you. We also bring individuals from the community and those who are making an impact in our world today. So, listen, this show is one that I love because it involves a very good friend of mine and colleague, but not only that, but I'm so happy and proud of him for what he's doing in his profession that he loves so much. And he sent me a message. He said, hey, is it possible I come back on your show? It's done. I was like, what? Have you done it? He said, yes, I got another movie, 2 movies in 2 years. So listen, I'm going to get right to it while we're enjoying this Labor Day holiday here in Hampton Roads. I'd like to welcome back to the show my good friend, NSU's alum and very own and Hampton Roads native filmmaker and author, Booker T. Mattison. Booker, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me, for introducing me to your audience. It's always great to have a conversation with you because you're a radio personality, sure, but I'm reminded of the very deep conversations we used to have in our offices at Hampton University. So it's always great to chat with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I tell everybody, I say we were the 2 young professors that arrived around the same time, and we just automatically clicked, and I think if we would have went to college together, we would have been boys, and so forth. It's
right, absolutely, absolutely.
But we are boys today, so I appreciate that so much. But I want to introduce you a little bit, just a reminder to our listeners, again, a Norfolk State University alum and who loves his institution and loves the Hampton Roads area where he's from. But Booker T. Mattison is an author, a filmmaker, and professor who wrote and directed the BET Plus original film, The Sound of Christmas, starring Neo and other very famous actors. And New York Times called the movie a charming new holiday film, and the film is an adaptation from, of course, a novel that was written called The Replacement Wife, and it was submitted for an Emmy consideration for Outstanding TV Movie for 2023. Now, Booker is a professor at University of Georgia, and we're going to talk about what you're doing and the impact you're making in the classroom because you're still doing that, right? So you're just not making films, but you're molding young minds. But one thing that I'm extremely excited for what you're doing is that you're taking your craft and you've had all these ideas. And of course, I have all these crazy ideas as well. You give me a lot of great tips, but you have all these ideas, and you're actually doing it. You're actually doing it. Before we get into the Twisted Marriage Therapist, I want to get into how you became a filmmaker. Why being a filmmaker? What was that bug that bit you?
That question is directly related to my time at Norfolk State. When I was at Norfolk State, I was a mass communications major, and my plan was to be a reporter and then to eventually move up and become an anchor. And I got a Virginia Association of Broadcasters internship, and I was sent to the WVEC, the ABC affiliate in Norfolk. And because it was a prestigious internship, well, one, I got paid, which was great. But two, I was able to perform in a lot of the positions, doing stand-ups, doing editing, doing Chiron, and these things made it to air. So I was able to get a full experience of what it would be like to work in a news station. But what I discovered in that internship is that rather than covering other people's stories, I wanted to tell my own. And it was at that point that I thought about film school. Before that, I didn't even know that film school was a thing. So then, I researched film schools and applied to NYU Film School and got in, and hence began the journey as a filmmaker. And I'll say this, that what I learned in the mass comm department at Norfolk State equipped me to be competitive and even to exceed at the graduate film school at NYU. So though I didn't become a reporter and an anchor, shooting, editing, framing, sound, all of those things that we learned for electronic news gathering were directly applied when I went to film school.
Wow. Now, did you ever, like, as a kid, you were like, did you see a movie and say, I want to be able to do that?
No, I didn't, because again, films is the bizarre part about film and television is that it's the one thing that 100% of people do. They watch film or TV. But it's also something that, at least certainly I didn't think about, that's something that people actually do as a profession. They actually go to work and their job is to write and direct or edit or shoot film and television. It really wasn't. But I can say that one of the early images I had in my mind was like it was a horror movie. You remember the Joker from, Cesar Romero, the Joker character from the Batman TV show?
Absolutely.
It was his face smiling at me, and it was the whole ceiling. And it was kind of creepy, and I didn't know that was like a scene from a movie, but kind of that's the way I imagined it. And then another one was this person, being, pulled up the wall. I guess they would be, I don't know, demonically oppressed or something. I don't know. It's like a horror movie thing. So interestingly, those images stuck in my mind and actually occurred when I was very young. But again, I didn't put two and two together. That would be a scene from a film, even though I was telling stories and writing and even directing my brothers and these scenarios that I would create. So I was doing all of the things that filmmaker does, but I didn't know that that's what a filmmaker did, and I certainly didn't think it was something I would ever do as a profession.
But here you are now.
Right.
Definitely someone who has taken his love for movies and films and your craft, and you're perfecting it. I want to get into how you're translating this to your students, because I want to get into the second film. But one thing that we do here at our universities, we take young minds, we mold and shape them, and give them the ability and the confidence and the skills to go out and do greater. When you're positioned at University of Georgia, talk about that a little bit and how you're utilizing what you've learned and imparting that into your students.
Absolutely. I teach directing and screenwriting, so I teach what I do. My Master of Fine Arts, my terminal degree, was in film and television production. So the probably the most rewarding thing is, for example, in my screenwriting class, because I'm actually working on my next film now, and even The Sound of Christmas and Twisted Marriage Therapist, I was writing the script while my students were also writing. And what I teach in my screenwriting class, for example, is the exact same processes that I go through to write a script for, a streaming service. The same thing with directing, the same process that I go through to direct a film. That's how I train my directing students. So they think it's cool because I'm not just someone who, read the textbook and talk about how you actually do something based upon secondhand information. It's literally something that I'm doing, and also they're able to tune in and see the work that I do. So the positions are very much complementary, being a film professor and a filmmaker. So that there's no conflict there. They go hand in hand in creating opportunities for my students to work on sets with me, but also me being an example that they in fact can do this and be successful in a very competitive field.
That's awesome. Do you also include your students in the work that you're doing, because you're very close to Atlanta, where you shoot a lot of your films? Is there an opportunity for students to get paid internships, working with you?
Yeah, every film that I've done up until The Sound of Christmas and Twisted Marriage Therapist, I've had students current students or former students, work on them.
Wow.
In the case of The Sound of Christmas, we were shooting in Atlanta, and of course the University of Georgia is in Athens, and it was during the semester. So I wasn't able to tell students, hey, drop class and come in and work as a production assistant on the film. And then, so that was kind of disappointing, because it was my first film where I didn't have either current or former students working on it. And Twisted Marriage Therapist, though it's set in Atlanta, we shot in Little Rock. So then it's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you, hey, book a plane ticket, fly to Little Rock for a month, and be a production assistant on the film. So the irony being, the last two films that I did, for the first time, I did not have either former or current students. This next one that I'm just starting to work on, it's called The Wrong Man. The plan is that I'll be shooting in Atlanta. It may wind up being during the spring, so it remains to be seen if I'll be able to have current or former students work on that one. But that's always the goal whenever I make something, because it's one thing for me to teach you how to make a film. I tell you how to do it. It's another thing for us to partner on an actual production. So they're actually serving as a part of the team as we build something. And something I say in class is, every time you turn on a camera, it's an opportunity to create something great.
Absolutely. When you said the next film is The Wrong Man, you're filming in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure you get a lot of, it won't be hard to film there, with that particular title. I want to get into this film that you have now. I think it's great what you're doing. Again, with your filmmaking, I think it's great what you're doing. With your students, I think it's great what you're doing across the board. This is your second film in a year. That is actually, well, when I say a year, probably, of course, Sound of Christmas was released around the holidays, but then you look at a 12-month calendar. First of all, the Twisted Marriage Therapist. Before we get into it, how do you do it? I mean, where do you find time to do it?
Well, that's the other beautiful part about teaching at a Research One university, which the University of Georgia is. So at a Research One, the expectation is that the professors are experts in their field, and they're excelling in their field. So my workload, is a 2-2. And for those who don't know workload or 2-2, what that means is, that means that I teach 2 classes per semester, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. So I teach 2 classes 2 days a week. So those who aren't familiar with being a professor, as you are, they think, oh, you teach 2 classes 2 days a week, so the rest of your time you're, quote, off. Well, no, I'm not actually off. I'm either in a pitch meeting, I'm either writing a screenplay, I'm shooting.
Absolutely.
So my workload is such so that I can be active and successful in my field. So, is it a challenge? Yes, it is still a challenge, because I do work 7 days a week, because, the network doesn't care. They know that I'm a professor, but they don't care that I'm a professor. The deadline is the deadline. You have a screening date. You have dates for when the script is due. So it is challenging, and I do work 7 days a week. It's funny. My wife and I, we've been married 22 years in December, but before we got married, I told her that I live a 24-hour lifestyle. She didn't quite know what that meant, because she was a corporate accountant when we got married. But she now knows, because again, it's about the deadline, and that's how I function. So I could be up at 3 a.m. writing, or I could be asleep at 12 in the afternoon recovering.
Absolutely. And again, congratulations on that. And, just to kind of give a even more of an example of how we found ourselves as a kindred spirit, both of us were married in December, and it'll be your 22nd year this year and my 23rd year this year. So.
Oh my goodness! Now, I didn't know that. I did not know that. Okay, so y'all got married a year before we did. Okay, great.
Year before. So I jumped the broom a little earlier than you did. So.
Right.
But again, it's been a great journey, and I'm pretty sure it's been a great journey for you as well. So look,
Absolutely.
let's get into this film, right? The Twisted Marriage Therapist. Now, according to your bio, Twisted Marriage Therapist is a to-be original film that you wrote and directed. And it's a psychological thriller that stars Marija Abney, Fariz Las, and Jennifer Sears, and it premieres on the streaming service on September 7th. So in a couple of days, we're going to get a chance to see this new film. Listen, before we do that, before we talk about the debut, tell us about it. Psychological thriller. How? Give us all the juicy stuff.
Sure. Twisted Marriage Therapist is the story of a celebrity marriage counselor who's played by, and it's actually Maya Abney. It's a challenging name to pronounce. So she plays the celebrity marriage counselor who gets the husband of a couple she's counseling committed so she can steal his wife. So the husband is played by Fariz Las. He has another challenging name to pronounce. And then Jennifer plays the wife. So yeah, it's twisted, that's in the title. But yeah, so this celebrity marriage counselor, she works her manipulation and her magic and gets the husband committed, and she's after the wife. So it's creepy, it's messy, it's juicy, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Now, your movie before that, The Sound of Christmas, it was one where it was an adaptation, from a novel that was written, The Replacement Wife. But in this one, it says that you not only directed the film, but you also wrote it. So where did that side of your creativity come from to create this type of thriller?
Imagination and creativity, and also I call myself a student of the human condition, and I'm well acquainted with human nature, both through my own actions and whims and the action and whims of others. So, with the adaptation, I wrote The Sound of Christmas as well, but with an adaptation, you're pulling a screen story from a novel. So you have characters that exist, you have, a world that exists. So your job as the screenwriter is to then, because you can't just take the book and put it on the screen, because they're two different mediums and you communicate in different ways, et cetera. So it's a different way of working, when you're writing an original screenplay, which Twisted Marriage Therapist is. So, the same principles have to apply because, even though it is a book, you still have to make these characters who are written, real characters who are on the screen. You have to combine characters, loose characters. You can't cover everything in a 300 and something page novel, in an hour and a half movie. So there's still choices that have to be made, but I guess the process with an original screenplay is a bit different, only because you're coming up with the characters, you're coming up with the worlds, but that same creativity and imagination is still at work. But to get back to I guess the crux of your question, these two movies are very, very different. But one thing that I tell my students, and it's something that I also employ as a writer director, is that every character, no matter who they are, should have aspects of you in them. So, all of us, we have, if it's not a dark side in the sense that you've actually done dark things, we've certainly imagined or thought about dark things, the same thing with good things. And, I also teach my students that you never judge a character and you love all your characters the same, the protagonist and the antagonist. Right. So that way you can not only humanize your characters, but you can create multi-dimensional characters who are real and authentic. And look, the most effective antagonist is one who is human, and that really, really freaks you out. It's not someone who is a caricature, and I define that as a character that's devoid of a truthful inner life. And even characters who do bad things still have a truthful inner life, and they don't think of themselves as bad people. I don't know of anyone who does bad things who thinks that they're a bad person. So that's my approach to creating characters that may do less than savory things or things that are shocking to an audience.
Tell us a little bit about the characters. Now, I know that for Fariz Las is actually a Virginia native as well, from South Boston, Virginia.
That's right.
And it is good. You're repping, hometown, home state talent. Tell us a little bit about him and his role and what we can expect from him.
Sure. So his character name is Liam. So Liam is the husband. And what's cool about it is that Perez is also a former Marine, and this character is a former Marine. He's a traditional man, a family man, he's a man's man, as it were. And he's married to, the love of his life, Jennifer, who her character name is Armika, and they're married. They've been married 7 years, and they've run into some challenges in their marriage. And the wife, Armika, is who seeks out counseling. Now, I'm not stereotyping and saying that men aren't into counseling, but in this particular story, the husband is reluctant. So Armika seeks out counseling. He's skeptical of the whole process. So he's one who is, very traditional, and the traditional man's man, meat and potatoes man's man is not going out sharing his personal business with a counselor. So he's someone who I think the audience will identify with, because he is committed to his wife and his marriage, and they've had some hurts and some disappointments, which endears you to him. But despite the hurts and disappointments in the marriage, he does commit to going to counseling in the hope that he can heal marriage, because he does love his wife.
Absolutely. And when we talk about the actual therapist, and the therapist is the actor Marija Abney, is that correct?
Yeah, Maia
Abney.
Yeah,
Maia.
It's like if you said my ear with a Boston accent. Maia.
I got it. Maia Abney. Please forgive me, by the way, Maia.
Right.
I hope I get a chance to meet you soon and get your autograph as well. She has a great, just in her young acting career. I mean, she's known really for being in the Black Panther, Endgame, right, and also the Avengers Infinity War. So how is she, and of course that was a different role that she played in the Black Panther, because you had women warriors at that time in the Black Panther, that great film by the late and great actor, who really changed a lot of minds about how we view the motherland, view Africa, Chadwick Boseman. But how did you find her to change her role from being that strong warrior woman to now an intellectual marriage therapist for this psychological thriller where she's creating this sinister plot to steal someone else's wife?
That's also a good question. So the way the process works is, you have a production, and one of the first people you hire is a casting director. So the casting director, who has relationships with actors and actors' agents, will send out the casting call or the character breakdown, and the actors will then do what are called self-tapes. So they will read, you'll send out with that character breakdown, which describes, the age, ethnicity, gender, a bit about who the character is. You send out what's also are called sides, which are the portions of the script that the actor will read to audition. So then the actors, they send in self-tapes. So I review self-tapes for every role in the movie, and from those submissions that come through the casting director, in the case with Mar Vista Entertainment, the production company, and Tubi, the network, I had to send in my top three. And then the network actually has to approve. They have to approve who, okay, well, this is the person that we want to go with. But, as the director, I choose my top three from among the, X number of actors that submit for each role. And in the case of an actor, actors love to play a variety of roles. So, and one thing they don't like is being, you've heard the term typecast.
Right.
So most actors are excited to play roles that are very different from roles that they played before. But here's the connection between being, Dora Milaje and being Dr. Yo, is that Dr. Yo, she is a warrior woman. She's an intellectual warrior. And, there is action in the film. And because she has this experience, doing stunts, she wanted to perform her own stunts, which she did. And we did have a stunt double for some of the more intense stunts. But because she's experienced, she's like, hey, I want to do my own stunts. So there was, I guess, a connection between the two, even though the stories and even the character is different in a lot of ways, but there are also some similarities.
Awesome. And you bring all that together. How is it working with these multiple talented individuals to bring your project to life?
So another thing, that I teach my directing students is that a director's most valuable asset is actors, because the audience makes an emotional investment in the actor on the screen. not in my script, not in my direction, not in the lighting, not in the camera movement, not in the sound, not in the music. The audience makes an emotional investment in the actor. So that's your most valuable asset. So I liken it to a marriage. You know, in your marriage, you can understand this analogy. It's 100% a marriage. So, you know, the courtship is, you know, the audition process where I'm assessing, you know, their ability to play a role. And then, you know, once, you know, I choose an actor and we're doing our table read and we meet, that's also a part of the courtship. And then, you know, once we're on set and we're ready to rock, we're married, we're doing it. So we're partnering together. And the actor, when you cast well, the actor can play the role better than you, and they know the role better than you. And I wrote the thing. So it was a great partnership. The actors were very talented. So in addition to Maya Abney, Perez Last, and Jennifer Sears, also Bree Weber, she had an important role. Jackie Dallas, James Bobo, Barbara Beneville, just an incredible cast of actors. And they all did so well that on most shots we did 2 takes. And a lot of times they would nail it on the first take, and we would do a second take, which I call a safety take. But that would allow us to do it, you know, a different way, to try something different, because they were so talented, so prepared. We would nail it on the first take the overwhelming majority of the time. So it was great partnering with such a talented cast to bring this very exciting story to the screen.
Well, listen, I, for one, am excited about what you're doing and excited about this second film in 1 year that you're bringing to life, and being able to give us a little bit of your talent and show us, you know, what the product of Spartan Nation, Norfolk State, is all
That's
about.
Right.
You know, again, this is The Twisted Marriage Therapist. It's a Tubi original film that Norfolk State's very own and Hampton Roads native Booker T. Mattison wrote and directed. Psychological thriller that will have you at the edge of your seat. And it starts streaming this week, September 7th. So get your Tubi, lock it in, come home, get some popcorn, and make sure that you are one of the first to stream it. And I tell you, you know, my family, we watched The Sound of Christmas, and we were really excited to see it because, again, we knowing each other and just talking about it. And you debuted that movie here on the show, and you're doing the same thing here. So we thank you for your support of your definitely Spartan Nation. Thank you for your support of Stay in the Water, myself, and I'm just so happy and proud of you, my brother.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you again for having me on. And yeah, let's have a chat about it once you check it out. So I'm excited for you to see it.
Absolutely. Again, that's The Twisted Marriage Therapist, Tubi original, that starts streaming this September 7th, 2023. And you can go to our social media here at wnsbonline.org or at nsu.edu. Go to our Twitter, go to our Facebook, our LinkedIn, and you'll be able to see a link to this particular trailer, which is out. And you'll be able to see it. And again, get tuned in on Tubi on September 7th. And you can learn more about my good friend and my colleague Booker T. Mattison at bookertmadison.com. That's BookerTMattison.com. And until next time, as we always do on this show, bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community and those that are doing great things in our area. And that's Booker T. Mattison. Until next time, God bless, God be with you, go be great, and we'll see you next week.